This is a Friday, and it's your Saturday. So we are out to get a nice, relaxing weekend. And I'm sitting here watching the leaves on our tree change color and drop. Some of them are still yellow. Well, a lot of them are still green. Most of them are. There's some that are yellow, and there's others that are turning brown and just dropping. So I suppose there's going to be a lot of lawns being raked here pretty soon. To listen one, I think, was the one who asked the other day if Buster and Rosie have ever met Lemur. And so I think, boy, you and the puppets are going to make me clean that table off. And I've got it loaded with stuff. Yeah, I'm making necklaces. He don't care. He just keeps giving me this blank stare. So I thought, well, maybe I will take him in one day, and I will have him meet Buster and Rosie and see how Buster and Rosie react. We need a little more Buster and Rosie. They are fun and cantankerous and ornery and lovable. And yes, they have taken on their own personalities, and they trigger a part in my brain where it's them and they are doing the speaking. It's like being a writer. It's that, when I wrote the Charlie books, I took a lot of inspiration about male models from my husband and my father, the characteristics and things I knew about Charlie, the real Charlie, and people of the times, things people had told me about what a gentleman he could be, and things like that. And so I composited that into this male protagonist for the two books that are the Charlie Bueller story. And so that part of my brain where Charlie resides is still Charlie. I'm not talking multiple personalities. I'm talking about multiple characters that live in my brain. And when I release them, then they start going and they start talking, and then I have to edit it because my editor says so. It is fun. And the only part Charlie she wants me to write another Charlie book, and maybe I will. I don't know. I'm kind of hung up on the last book ended so well, and the ones who've read it have been so satisfied with the ending. It's like, do I go one too far? I mean, the first one was such a good introduction to Charlie, and the second one just kept that story going and gave it a polish, thanks to my editor, Mary Jo. She's a stickler, and she is fun, and she's funny, and sometimes we kind of argue a little, but not really argue. It's like we're just kind of discussing that we might disagree on something, but I usually come around to her point of view. Because she's usually right. It's like my husband. You don't want to admit it, but they're usually right. But that's why she does it. And if she wasn't so good, I probably wouldn't keep going back to her, even though she does it for nothing, for me. She just does it for the love of doing it. And she gets to help create that book. So, I mean, she doesn't get her name on it except in the acknowledgments, because she swears, no, you're writing this book. This is your book, which it is. But, it's not a combined putting the story together. More or less what she does is she tells me, she'll add in the commas and stuff where I screw up the punctuation. But she'll call me out when there's a place where there needs to be more detail. Like, well, what is this person wearing? You didn't put anything on them. Are they naked? It's like, well, no, can't you assume they got clothes? No. For one thing, you need to dress them according to the period. And yeah, like with Charlie and them, I mean, you had to dress them according to the early 1900s, because that's when they lived. And so his mother, Lula, she has a little spot in my memory and my brain, and if I needed to call her up, she'd be there. Oh, like I said, it's not a multiple personality disorder. It's just a multiple character brain. And it makes it more fun to write. I did get a little burned out for a little bit, because those two books have been my highlight, and up to now. And so much of my love of the characters went into it. It just took me a while to be able to get out of that mode of thinking. But now I'm working on another book that, actually, I wrote the book years ago. I just never did make it complete. I don't write an outline. I just start writing and making it go where I think it should go, where I want to plant people. And then they start taking me over. So, and then I'll go back through it and see if it's somewhat comprehensive. But I've got one of those brains that kind of holds on to stuff a little bit, but I think everybody does. Doesn't mean that you can't go back, that you shouldn't go back and reread things, because there's always something. In fact, there's a lot of some things. But so now it's between me and Mary Jo, and but this one is a whole different type of story. So it's more back with my very first one, except that it's a different. Well, it's kind of I don't know if you call it more of a fantasy fiction, maybe. I don't know how sci-fi you could call it, but more of a fantasy fiction. But we're going to take Mr. Lemur in one of these days, and he's going to have a conversation with Buster and Rosie. Or at least Buster and Rosie are going to try to have a conversation with him. We will see what happens. He doesn't respond to me. Maybe he'll like Buster and Rosie better and quit giving him that weird stare. God bless you. Have a great weekend. Have fun. I love you. Good night.